Well, what's stopping you? To most people, it's themselves. This aspect of Haikyuu is explored in many different, specific, and nuanced ways with nearly all of its prominent characters and many, many of its less prominent ones. The arcs and hurdles that they go through look different for each one of them. They are varying levels of difficulty, and they vary in the time it takes them to succeed, but most of the time consist less of the physical limits they have and more of the mental blocks they've put on themselves. It's enjoyable, of course, seeing the strong get stronger, see them adapt, seeing the powerless become powerful, achieve what they want, but one of the most powerful and the longest tug-of-war sessions in Haikyuu is Tsukishima's fight with himself over passion, direction, and control. I think I can say with confidence that I actually love all of the characters in Haikyuu, and some of them I love to hate. I love that Tsukishima was being a too-good-for-everyone, couldn't-care-less attitude character, constantly berating and getting under the skin of course, our main protagonists, of the people who are supposed to be his allies. I kinda loved hating him. I admittedly even felt happy, even as late as the first few episodes and the first episode of the training camp in Season 2, when he displayed frustration over being exhausted. I didn't think he was a bad dude, but this self-important, too-good-for-everyone, always give up before trying feeling is the first thing that you're established with him. You might even wonder why he even cares about volleyball in the first place. Multiple times I thought to myself while watching, well, if he doesn't care so much, why doesn't he just quit? But Daichi had people hold off, and I think he saw Tsukishima for who he really was, even if he didn't know the exact details. That being said, even outside of him as a character, the dissonance he brings to the story I think eases in people who may not care too much about volleyball, but also immediately puts a focus on him in the story. People like myself who know pretty much nothing about the sport are somewhat able to fill in and sympathize the things he offers with what's so good about it, that cynical feeling that many outsiders feel toward any different thing that they don't understand or identify with. He offers a good counterbalance to the early narrative because everyone else in the story pretty much is very determined and happy and passionate to succeed, but it's still frustrating to feel like he's a weight that is always bringing down the morale and frustrating the people that he's supposed to be assisting. He repeatedly is calling Kageyama king, even until pretty late into the show, repeatedly belittles Hinata, not for a lack of talent or effort, but more irritatingly, because Hinata puts in the effort. His mindset is defeatist, and I think the most angering part of him for me is that I often see myself in him. Not that that's unique to Haikyuu. I'm sure most of the characters have pieces that most people connect with, but Tsukishima has a part that I really hate about myself. Why would I even try to do X thing if it's just going to fail anyway? Why would I put in the effort to do this other thing when I have no idea what the reward or long-term benefit is even going to be? It's just a waste of my time and energy. I unfortunately rationalize this way to my family a lot whenever they try to push me to go outside and find new romantic or platonic relationships. I don't want to bend and humor them about something that I don't care about. And even more so, I don't want them to bend and humor me about things that they could care less about. I acknowledge that's a sick mindset, but it's all that I saw when I saw Tsukishima. After seeing him behave this way through all of Season 1 and even into the start of Season 2, you start to see some cracks and growth. He looked up to, put his faith in, and loved, of course, his older brother. He thought, wow, I want to be just like him, so successful. His brother gave him a love for volleyball, a love of that dream of being important, special, and relied upon. And then, the moment that actually caused me to physically cringe while watching it. He sees after all of those years that his brother told him all of these stories, his big brother had lied to him. He's no ace. He couldn't even make it onto the team. And worse so, he sees the ace, the tiny giant, number 10. He looks at it as number 10 stealing not only his brother's dreams, but now all his trust as well. He tries to rationalize it. It's just a dumb game. Why did he care so much anyway? Why did it mean so much for my brother to lie to me about it? He's confused, hurt, and upset, and only internalizes it, making him grow emotionless. Why show passion when it can be stripped of you? Nothing is important. It sets in this defeatist mindset. And if it isn't ironic enough, he now shares the middle blocker space with a red-headed tiny giant of his own, that number 10 jersey. Worse yet, he feels like it's almost predestined. Hinata has more potential and talent after all than he does. Why compete with Hinata? He's just going to lose, just like his brother did. While I don't think that this excuses his previous behavior, it's still incredibly childish to just be mean to your teammates. These new details and cracks that are put into the story begin to paint Tsukishima in a much different and a much fuller light. We almost all at times have things stripped from us. Feelings, certainties. When trust shatters, it's a hard thing to build back up. Especially something like family. It might seem like one of the 4 legs on your table, and you remove one and it makes it a lot less sturdy. I'm still trying to wrap my head around my parents' divorce earlier this year, and still have moments of doubts in romantic situations due to bad past experiences. But I know that dwelling on, accepting this bad past situation as facts in my life, unchangeable and infinitely recurring bad events, looking at things that way won't fix a thing. It might save me from more potential pain because I'm not putting the faith and trust in others, but it also prevents me from being able to connect with them on enough level. It prevents that sense of purpose, the highs of life. So I know even if it's hard, it's childish to hold on to those things. Nothing is set in stone until it is. Nothing is a fact until it has happened. Tsukishima knows that he feels angry and frustrated, and thinks that if he simply doesn't care about these things, the frustration will have nowhere to feed and grow stronger. But what he doesn't know is that it's a beast that feeds on him, from the inside out, and the only way to feel better is to find self-efficacy, to find positive ways to let his frustration out. You might feel mad when you lose, when you don't do good enough. You might think, as a whole, you just aren't good enough. But when you win, that monster dies, even if just temporarily. Even if only some of its power is lost. A line my friend Jack pointed out to me was the line where Tsukishima is called a waste of height. For someone like Kageyama, that would immediately fire him up openly, but for Tsukishima, that's the thing he's been afraid of all along. If Hinata, a middle blocker, literally 26 centimeters or 10 full inches shorter than him, contributes more to their team, how worthless does that make him feel? They technically have the same job as well, both being middle blockers. Him being told that does rest on him though, and perhaps his only friend, the guy who has consistently followed him around, endlessly looks up to him, defends and praises him, Tadashi, finally steps a little out of his normal character, grabs his neckline and yells at him. Tadashi knows how Tsuki has been feeling and can't help to stay quiet anymore. So Tsuki starts a couple of small steps from this, as all things start out. He starts to more willingly train with the other people, but he still doesn't really feel like it's helping. He feels like it's all pointless, like he's just moving forward because the little kid inside of him would want it. Like he grew out of his childlike body and into a depressed shell of himself. But he still feels an obligation on some level to keep that old kid's wish. Maybe it's the small denied childishness that then holds on to faith whenever he's told that there is a mythical moment, a point where you feel important. A time when you know that where you are is where you belong, and love for what you do will flood you. When he's told this by another player, it's something he remembers. An idea that a release for all doubt and hatred is possible. Such a moment exists. That's why Tsukishima's transformation in episode 4 of season 3 literally put tears into my eyes before I realized what was going on, and easily marked one of my favorite moments in the show. The first 2 full seasons were a tug-of-war between this calculated, cynical Tsukishima that we know, and this hope and love-filled Tsukishima who had refused to disappear entirely. He lands a near impossible block. He hurts his hand, but when he does something that only he can do. He does a mental block. He uses his brain to follow and calculate and plan. He starts small with these different strategies involving his team, and then finally he gets his opportunity, the one he's looking for in all of the sets. And the irony is poetic and amazing. Tsukishima destroys this mental block on himself that has pained his mindset and his outlook on life for years by delivering a mental block to the opponent. A strong opponent. A perceivably indefeatable, unblockable opponent. It's like the most literal physical manifestation of him shutting out his demons, and the moment that ensues is absolutely incredible. Suki overcomes his mental block and becomes the role model that he always wanted to see in his older brother. He manifests his own worth in that moment, and the way that he gets determined, scoffs and cheers and jeers with the other team, there forward is so beautiful to see in the show. Like the shackles that he had restrained himself with have finally been set free. Like the other version of himself finally let him be happy. Things don't always work out as we want. Sometimes, even when we try our hardest, we will still fall short. But that is no reason to become helpless. Every situation is different, and the opportunity for greatness is almost always a chip worth bargaining over an opportunity for failure. Still, a small moment that I appreciate is that even after that moment, even after they go to nationals, Suki is beating himself up in the bathroom thinking of how he could have done better. And Tadashi, who has over 3 seasons grown amazingly in his own right, drags Suki out of this pit that he's gotten so used to. He does whatever he needs to. He makes Suki realize it's okay to be happy. You won. You beat the boss. It's over. There is no rug that's going to sweep you off your feet. No punch in the gut to look out for. Sometimes things do work out, and that's the mythical feeling that I think all of us should strive for.